it's also about being doing what you say you'll do. It's like, oh, if my products are really this great, then make sure they are that great. If that's what you're portraying on social, because let's face it, we've all bought those things that look like, Gucci when you order them, and then something terrible when it arrives.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to Beyond Threats podcast by Bleckmann. I'm your host today, Mohamed, and today I have with me two wonderful guests, Maxim and Antony. How are you guys doing?
So good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Maxim, I think the people are really curious who you are. I think I could start with you with the introduction. Could you please tell us who you are, what you do,
Of course.
what you like, and everything?
So I'm Maxim. I'm based in Belgium. I'm 31 years old. I'm working 1 year for Bleckmann now as business development manager. Before I had my own fashion company, Black and Gold, and now a startup Studio Envers. So yeah, I know everything about marketing for fashion brands and how to start from a scale up until like a medium scale brand. So that's my background for it.
Perfect. Sounds amazing. I think I have enough questions for you later. Antony, please.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Antony. I'm the co-founder of the Industry.Fashion and the Industry.Beauty. We are business media platforms. We produce daily news, features, insights, reports, podcasts. We have some incredible events that we do as well for our audience. And yeah, in short, we're the inside view of UK fashion and beauty. And I am based in London. I have worked I'm going to show my age now, but I've worked in media and fashion e-commerce and beauty e-commerce for, over 25 years or something. And I'm excited to be here and to chat to you guys.
I would have never guessed 25 years, but awesome. No, so about the event you guys hosted in April, Industry Beauty, if I'm not mistaken. How was that? How did you enjoy it? What was the premise of the event?
Yeah, that's right. We host. We have an event channel called the Industry.Beauty Live, and we have the same thing in fashion. But talking about the one we did in April, it was all about the omnichannel opportunity. So it was really about, how many brands really think that they are selling omnichannel, because it's very different to selling across channels. Omnichannel means that you've got this one view of your stock, you've got this one view of your inventory, and so on and so forth. And then where you sell that through all of your channels. So we had the stellar audience. We had standing room only. We were kind of putting chairs in at the back and everything so that everyone could enjoy it. Incredible lineup of speakers. We had some great people from your company, Bleckmann, so we were grateful for that. And we had some business leaders from brands such as Elemis and Skin Rocks by Caroline Hirons, from Malin and Getz. We had Lush on the panel. Yeah, but really, really useful for our audience. And we do those events, almost monthly. So yeah, it went really well.
That sounds really exciting. So you mentioned omnichannel. I assume that's offline and online as well. How is a digital platform, maybe you can give an example, how are those reshaping the beauty and lifestyle industry, or perhaps even the fashion industry? What effect do these platforms have?
Yeah, sure. I mean, omnichannel, it was such a learning for me at that event as well, because I just, I work in these industries every day and I'm learning so much, but I assumed omnichannel was as long as you're, selling on your mobile app, selling on your e-commerce, selling through retailers, selling through, blah, blah, blah. What it actually means is that your whole entire kind of sales channels are this one view. And that's where Bleckmann were great, because they were able to say how they could, help with inventory and having it in which warehouse, etc. But then also we were hearing from, the GM of brands, we were hearing from the marketing teams, the e-commerce teams about different things they deploy on their channels to kind of drive sales and drive conversion and engagement. We had everything from, AI. We had a really cool company come speak called Revive, and they had Boots number 7 with them, where they were speaking about how their digital try-on and skin scanner had really helped with their conversion and engagement online. And it was just, I think we've all learned from COVID, right, that you couldn't go to stores and you couldn't try things, etc. So digital has come a long way to be able to sort of put that experience from what you would normally have in store, having it online with companies like Revive. So yeah, we just heard so many great, things across different channels that were there to help drive engagement and conversion. Like I said, yeah.
I'm agreed with Anthony on this one. And the only thing is also that like this kind of digital platform are creating like a new market for brands, like smaller brands getting like a lot of access to new customers.
Right.
Of course, now after like with the updates of iOS and more privacy, so with the change of the privacy laws, it's like a lot more difficult for brands to have all the data on their websites, so they can use this like marketplace digital platforms to receive like more data in a good way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. As a marketer myself, I am so aware of the GDPR and the laws that are coming with it. But on the opposite, it's really important for consumers that their privacy is being keepsaked. So it's not just being able to so easily obtainable to get data on customers and benefit from that as a brand. So I think it's a two-way street, definitely. So thank you for your input, Maxime. Is there anything you want to add, because you are a brand owner, Maxime? Is there anything you want to add in regards to digital platforms? How was your start? Is there anything people should know in regards or starting a brand? What to take into account when using a digital platform, especially if you do like direct to consumer? I think that's really important right now, since Instagram has a shop, TikTok has a shop. Anything can be used as a marketplace these days. So anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think as a brand, as you're starting a new market, it's really difficult to do it just on your own website, or you will pay a lot of advertising costs without a good success. So it's more easy to open like digital platforms to serve together with the mass, like get more people to show your brand to. Also, like we explained, you have AI now, you have like VR technologies. To for sure in the beauty sector, it's more easy than fashion. But if you have like a sunglass, for example, and you can just use your phone with a selfie and you can wear it, it's like a really nice technology you can use. And over time, I was like a few months ago in meeting with Google, and they are also working on this now with shaping different people with different sizing to compare to your own body. And over time, it will be possible even to just like if you click on a t-shirt, you just see the perfect fit, how it looks on you. And I think over time, that's really important for also smaller brands to have the ability to use this technology.
Agreed. I think what you were saying there about fit tech and everything, I think that's going to be a game changer, especially in this world we live in where, returns are such an issue. And obviously that has such an impact on people's bottom line, but also the environment. But people forget brands still have to make money and think about the environment, obviously. And so if they can deploy those fit tech, within their site, etc., I think it really helps them to sort of stop that, So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think fit tech and stuff is the way forward.
Yeah, and of course, like the younger people, like 16, 18 years old, they have like VR glass. So they are like using Meta and different ways to discover brands, even ways that I didn't discover yet. But I think that's also really interesting to see, even in games on like PS5, PS4, it doesn't matter, of Xbox. Yeah, you see a lot of like brands coming back there.
I think it's really awesome how technology is helping the fashion and beauty industry, because personally, I always used to go to the store because I want to fit clothes or shoes to see if they are fitting properly, instead of ordering them online, get them sent home after a couple of days, and then try everything on, and then I have to send it back. I didn't always feel comfortable doing that, so I'd rather just, I live in a city center. Some clothing stores are literally 1 minute away from me. So I just go there, fit something, and then buy it or not. And I think fit tech would really help me personally. And I think a lot of people as well. If I can stay at home, try clothes on with this technology, I don't have to leave my house. Feels like COVID again. But then I can just, in the comfort of my own home, I can just try out clothes, and then I order them or I don't order them. And then that I think that sustainability wise, that would be a huge help.
Agreed. But listen, they're also doing it for beauty. I mean, before we would have had to go to the store and trial a perfume or trial a lipstick, whatever it might be. So actually at our event the other week that we worked on with you guys, there's an amazing company called SoPost, and they do a ton of different ways of doing digital sampling. So one thing that they've done recently, and I'm sure it's more in depth than this, by the way, and they'll probably say, "Oh God, you didn't sell it right." But the thing that I learned from them, which I thought was amazing, is that they've actually partnered up with Amazon Alexa, so that if there is something like a podcast or an ad or something that comes out, you can actually, by voice command, ask them whatever they're telling you about in the podcast or on the ad. They can then send you a sample so that you can have it into your house. You can try the fragrance, you can try the lipstick, whatever it might be. They even do chocolate, for Tony's chocolate only. And that then has like a kickback card and everything that you can then order. But what's great for the brands is that they actually then have all of your data and everything, so that they can really cut down on all those freebie hunters and stuff, because they know who is actually converting and who is the right demographic to buy their brand's product. So it's not just fit tech, it's also to do with cosmetics and stuff now. So it's incredible, the whole kind of offline online connection,
And the data is also an extra value, of course, for all the brands.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds awesome. I wasn't even aware of that. Maybe I should do more of my homework, because that's actually really interesting. I didn't know it was so interactive with ads or podcasts that you're able to get this information or even these samples. So yeah, I'll be doing my homework, and I think you did the brand that does it. I'm not sure what was the brand called?
SoPost.
Oh, yeah, I think you did them more than justice, because you already have convinced me to look into this. Let's talk about personalized marketing. Of course, Antony, you own a business media company. How are these digital platforms influencing marketing, and even on a personal note? Because as Maxim mentioned before, GDPR, even that will be implemented this year. I think August or September. Those laws will be implemented, and then as of 2025, third-party cookies will be no longer. So every brand has to go off first-party cookies. So they have to actually retrieve all the data themselves. So if any brand is listening to this, start now as a marketer to another. Get as much data as possible to make sure all your target groups are being well targeted, instead of just, in Dutch we have a saying, schieten met hagel. Just shooting with, it's called shooting a hill with a shotgun, and hope you hit something. But it's rather to have like accurate data and everything. How can you see that back in a media company? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, sure. So we obviously we're GDPR compliant, etc. But within for us anyway, it's really about making sure our content is right for our audience. So for example, it must be an absolute minefield in consumer business, because you can essentially sell anyone anything, right? So you can be contacting people, you can be sending them 100 emails. One day it's about PVC windows, the next day it's about Coca-Cola,
Definitely.
But when you're a business media company like us, or a business to business company, you're definitely a lot more targeted, and so you're only really attracting the people that are going to want to use your platform, right? So for us, we use all different types of methods to make sure that we engage our audience, and we want to own their data, or we want to own them in some way, but we very much kind of know that we have to go where the reader is. It's not necessarily us just saying, oh, our website, everybody's checking that website every day. We know that might not be the case. So that's why we've got our newsletter that goes out every day. And so we've got a pool of people over there that do that and read us through that. We've then got our Instagram. We hear from a lot of people that they just literally get all of the news from our Instagram stories. That's their morning kind of sort of intake. And then we've got our live audience as well, so people come along and we sort of ask them to kind of sign up to the newsletter and stuff, and then we've just got people that come organically to the website. So it's just as tricky for us, but it is definitely more targeted, if that answers you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great.
More than I could have asked for, even.
Okay.
So that's really informative. Maybe Maxime, do you have anything to add to that as a brand owner perspective?
I think on the brand side, it's really important, like the few last years, that you starting focusing more on partnerships. with like influencers or external companies, because of course with the privacy law, like starting up all the data that you're like receiving, you can still keep it like for a few months and then it's deleted automatically. So you need this kind of influencer that okay, his following base is our target group, and that's really interesting in influencer marketing, of course. And you see it also over time now with TikTok, for example, as like an digital platform. They have like different algorithms using, so it's more easy as a small brand to like go viral there. So you don't need a lot of money. You can just like have a nice video. Like the best way is, even if it's a customer that like just making a review about your product, and that can go viral. And this is more like a way that as a brand you need to work today, in place of just spending money on ads with like product feeds.
Definitely. I think I've been one of those people that have been targeted through social media and has been convinced of buying certain products through like TikTok or Instagram.
Same.
So it does work, and I completely agree with you. And Anthony, is there anything you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about. It fills me with fear nowadays. I've always toyed with the idea. I say it to my business partner all the time. I'm like, oh, we should launch a brand, like a consumer brand as in a product. But we just get put off because the horror stories that we hear about these brands having to pump so much money into all of the social media to be able to even sell a unit, it's crazy. And so from us, because if you think about it, our content is our marketing channel. So we're not someone who does that. We don't pump tons of marketing money into that because we've got our own channels, and like I said, we're super targeted, so we've got our own content and stuff that kind of engages the right people, thank God. But it's way over my head, the amount of money and stuff that you have to pump in to get a customer. Maxim, I feel for you that that's what you have to do to drive your sales. But I agree with you about the influencers, and I think if you get, even at my age, I still love influencers, and I follow some on my Instagram and stuff. And I want, I know when they're just kind of like flogging me something, you know what I mean? It's like, I know that it's just a partnership that isn't organic. And so I think when you get the right partnership with the right brand and they do genuinely love it, and by the way, I'm not saying they shouldn't be paid for their time. Of course they should, but
Definitely.
it speaks volumes when they're actually into the product, you know what I mean?
It need to be authentic.
Exactly that. Yeah. And there's now, have you heard of influencers? So there are now this whole trend. Again, we had it in one of our reports that you can download online about influencers, which is where they're sort of getting tons of popularity and followers by being really, really, really honest about the product. So, they're saying, I got sent this thing and, the makeup washed off after 2 minutes or whatever it might be. And so people are finding that a lot more authentic, and, some of it, I guess, might be a hate follow because they're just finding it funny. But it is quite interesting because there's so many influencers that will just tell you anything, whereas these influencers are kind of telling you the truth, So, yeah.
Definitely.
I think it's maybe like over the years, like influencing is starting, I think 2010, 2012, something around. So in that time, people really believed what they were seeing. But now over time, it's like everybody knows it's sponsored. They are not authentic or like full partners of the brand. Every day they post something else.
Yeah.
So
right.
In that way, it's getting more difficult. So as a brand owner, it's important to choose like the right influencer, having like a long-term relationship with them.
Yeah.
That it's looking and being like authentic to all the people.
Agreed.
I agree as well. And I think the most important takeaway from this is everything in the market is so transparent nowadays, especially with social media. And honesty is much more appreciated, myself included, because the content I watch, I follow certain influencers and they say, okay, I have been sent this, but I didn't like it or I loved it. And then if you have if you're a brand and you have a good product and you get honest reviews which are good, you're more likely to go into this stratosphere atmosphere. Like it's gonna skyrocket your brand. And I think people brands should take advantage of that, because I've seen brands become so much more significant because of this one good review from like this mega popular influencer they had, that the sales went insane. And I can give an example. It doesn't necessarily have to do with an influencer, but do you remember the cup that survived the car fire?
Oh yeah, the Stanley Cup.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's one TikTok video, and the brand went viral with that. And the sales, I've seen some numbers, the sales that it made purely based on that video and the views it got. That's insane. And of course, that's a really catastrophic or a really sad happening, but that shows how social media platforms can change a brand's whole pathing. And I think, of course, don't set cars on fire. This is a disclaimer. But it's like also maybe the food TikToker you probably all have heard of. He is a Vegas-based TikToker, and he just says, "I'm gonna rate this food from 1 to 10, and if it's good, I will tell you guys. If it isn't, well, so be it." And people who are on the brink of bankruptcy, people who are like on the edge of bankruptcy, this one person reviewed their products, and they are opening multiple locations right now. It's running so good. So it's only marketing that they were missing. The service was good, the products were good, and that is not only in this specific industry. That's for pretty much every industry a brand is in. So also the fashion and beauty industry can be heavily affected by influencer marketing. And if you want to pay for it, sure. If you don't, then just hope people stumble upon it and think it's a good product. So that I think that will help definitely.
So maybe also over time, if you see like a brand, how it was working, like before it was more like product selling, today it's like brand storytelling. So it's not only anymore like product showing, it's really like a total view. And the customers really like more like a premium product today than like just a cheap product that everybody can buy online.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think especially with certain things I purchase, the lifestyle around a certain brand that it portrays is sometimes more important than the product itself. And that shows just, I think people who sell like certain products, they just put a Rolex in the picture, and then it shows, oh, like it's a luxury item, and it has a certain lifestyle. It's just really how the brain works. And maybe I'm like a softie for those kind of content, but apparently it does work.
Right.
Perfect.
Maybe they check their like audience in a good way, that they just know, okay, this is the audience we have, we need to show this. If you have like a more sustainable audience, you need to work more on that kind of way.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a little bit in the middle, because I think sustainability is really important. I have been studying it for more than 4 years, and of course at Bleckmann it's a really important factor as well. But at the other side, there's no other side. I also like luxury items. I'm not sure why I wanted to make the comparison, but yeah, I think both are really important to me personally, and that just shows how I can be influenced, but how other consumers can be influenced as well. But Maxim, sorry.
No, sorry to interrupt.
No,
I was going to say what you just said though is absolutely right, because I feel like, you know, Vivienne Westwood started to do it, didn't she? Where she tried to say, like, if you just buy a few things every year that are great quality, that are going to last you forever, you know, that is the whole essence of sustainability. Let's face it, we're all going to buy stuff. Nobody can just stop buying things tomorrow. And so all of the different channels need to happen, right? It's like all of the manufacturing, the delivery, every single channel along the way has to do what they can to make it as sustainable as possible. But then to your point as a consumer, what you just said about, you like luxury items. Okay, great. Well, if they are those luxury items that are going to spend, might spend, I don't know, £1,000 on it or something, but it's going to last you 20 years. That to me is so much better than buying, I don't know, 5 things every week that fall apart. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So,
yeah. No, I see myself in there, in that what you just described, because I'd rather spend a little bit more of money for a product that lasts me so much longer than, for example, a wallet. I have owned the same wallet for over 3 years now. It still looks as new as to like some of my friends. They own a wallet that costs maybe like a couple of euros, and then in a couple of months they need to buy a new one because it's already falling apart. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather spend, okay, maybe it's a little bit excessive, a couple of €100 for a wallet.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely agree. So yeah, that's a really good point, and thank you for sharing that information, Anthony. So I feel a little bit better on spending more
You're
money,
seen. Yay.
spending more money on my products. So yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. But Maxime, you mentioned earlier about social media, how brands are evolving on these platforms. Are you able to tell how these brands are evolving on these platforms? Because there are so many brands on social media right now. How does a brand differentiate themselves from the others?
I think in the most important way, if you're like, yeah, starting 10 years ago, you started like first on a Facebook kind of way, then to Instagram, and now more and more to TikTok. So you create first like more, yeah, more business minded pictures and not really like customer based. But today, if you see again to TikTok, it's really like more, yeah, funny, more connected to the customer itself. So that's a totally different approach that they have there. They also try to have like, yeah, more like the customer itself making reviews about the products on, yeah, on the platform itself. So they will reshare it as a brand. This was something 5 years ago they would never do.
Anthony, is there anything you want to add onto that?
Yeah, sure. So everything Maxime said, I completely agree with. I think it's about having your brand kind of identity and voice. And I know everybody says that, but I think to what your point earlier was about, if you love the brand and the lifestyle they're kind of putting forward, then you're going to want to buy stuff from them. And I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's also about being doing what you say you'll do. It's like, oh, if my products are really this great, then make sure they are that great, if that's what you're portraying on social. Because let's face it, we've all bought those things that look like, Gucci when you order them, and then something terrible when it arrives. So
Relatable,
I,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I also think that having a bit of a niche as well, because again, if we look at beauty, there are some really cool brands like Decipher that are a makeup brand, but they are creating foundations and stuff that you literally make online. So you can put in all of your different bits and bobs, and then you get a personalized foundation, So that is, yes, they're in competition with someone like Mac, but they're offering something very different that maybe the other one isn't offering. I also just think, all of it sounds crazy, but all of those logistical things are really important. Like, if I go to a brand and their returns policy is terrible, or their delivery took forever, or I couldn't get the refund for 3 months, or things like that, that it doesn't matter how amazing they look on Instagram, it doesn't matter what celebrity they've got telling me to buy it, it doesn't matter how much I want the product, I'm just not going to bother, because all of those other things are bad. And I think people forget about that side of it, but they are probably more brand damaging than a shoddy Instagram post. Do you know what I mean? To me,
agree.
anyway. To me, anyway.
Yeah, you will be like a one-time buyer and never
Right,
again.
exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. I think it's also important, like if you're using like an influencer there, that you have like more and more like a micro influencer than like the macro, because it's more close to like his audience itself. And even that if you're doing like, yeah, gym clothing or loungewear, that it's more like connected to like, yeah, this community of people. It's not like always random. And then of course, like Anthony was saying, like the interaction between people, it's really important that you have like more possibilities on the website, like even like the sunglass or anything with AR, or like with AI. You see also a lot of options now in Instagram and TikTok. I think that's really important.
I completely agree with you, with both of you, because from my experience, as soon as the customer service, for example, isn't what I expected it to be, then I'm like, okay, have my money for this one time, and then there's a small chance I won't be coming back. And of course, it depends on the product, or maybe it's just like this one time occurrence, and I don't want to be the one that of this one bad experience completely ignores the brand for future references. But it plays with the mind a lot, and I think that's also really important. And some brands do it really well. You have like a year to contact them. If you're not happy with the product, you get refunded without any questions asked, and or you can change an item if it's like broke. These things all sound so logical to us, but in the reality they're not really applicable for some brands. And I think brands should learn from that as well, because it's
Mm.
it's really important to of course attract from a market perspective new customers, but also to keep the customers you already have and do
Well,
whatever
Yeah.
it takes
yeah.
to keep them,
Well,
because
I mean,
And
it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper to,
it,
you know,
I,
keep the
definitely
ones you've got than drag in a load of new ones. Yeah.
that's the
I,
reason
I
you're paying for the ad for the
yeah,
Right.
first time, and they need to stay. Otherwise, it's like a loss of operation.
yeah,
But
Exactly.
I think also if you have like this advertising influencer working for you, and the buyer is checking the website, he's really thinking it's a nice product, they will go for sure checking reviews. That they will for
Mm.
sure do. If you have there already like problems in the reviews, they will most of the time will not buy. And then you have also after that, like in checkout, you have Klarna, you have Mastercard, you have a lot of options. But we see also a lot if you have like Klarna or like pay later options, that's giving like also a lot of more trust to like the customer to try the product the first time.
Yeah. Mm. Agreed. It's funny because to exactly that, I now look and I see what are the payment methods they have, and if they don't have all those things, I'm normally a bit dubious about it, because I think in today's world, I mean, let's face it, nearly everyone's got a buy now pay later service, haven't they? Or some kind of
Mhm.
sort of way of paying or whatever. So I sometimes look at it and think, oh, hang on a minute, that's weird. Why have they not got that?
definitely,
Um,
yeah.
is it reputable? Is what I always think. Yeah.
Yeah, even in the checkout, like the delivery options, it's getting more and more important.
Mm,
Like if you're like delivering at home, but just that day you are at work or somewhere else, it need to be more easy to just adapt it. You
yeah.
can just tell, okay, put it off in a drop-off zone somewhere.
Yeah.
Definitely. I struggle with that so much, because living in a city center, I don't have a garden or like a front yard or anything. I just have my apartment building, and sometimes they don't even come up to the second floor or the third floor to deliver my package. So I have to go outside. Sometimes it has been stolen
Mm.
before, so then
Oh no.
that's a whole different story. Then I have to get my money back, etc. But what you
Oh,
mentioned, Anthony, payment options are really like, it's a small service, but they are really important, because it gives up a certain vibe that like we want your money now and then you get the product, otherwise you're not getting the product. And with like, pay now
mm,
or pay later or pay in installments, you're giving a sense of trust to
hmm.
those customers who are buying your product. And that really helps, because of course if there's not a pay now or pay later option, then I'll just buy something with my credit card, and I'm insured
Right,
anyways. But
right.
going through the hassle of doing everything like that, then it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
not
I
even
will
worth
say
it.
we work with Klarna, and I've always been a huge fan. I was lucky enough to meet their founder, and their team's incredible. And it really upset me actually when they got so much flack in the press, when everybody was like, "Oh no, buy now, pay later is causing all these problems." And actually, they went so far into look at research where it was actually proven that it was helping people. Because you've got to think, you know, not everybody's using it for the same thing. Like I might use it to buy two sizes of something, and yes, I know that's a returns issue, and I'm try not to do that. I'm very careful with it. But then you can also use buy now pay later for someone who maybe hasn't got the funds to buy their kid a new bed, or a sofa for their lounge, or whatever it might be. So I think that buy now pay later is actually a good thing used correctly, and
Definitely.
retailers, it might, and I know for a fact it helps them with their new customer acquisition and retention. And by the way, they have such incredible, it's like I'm doing an ad for Klarna, sorry,
No,
but
it's fine. It's
they
fine.
they have such incredible databases and everything where they're able to promote brands. So I think for young brands as well, it's actually great because they can use their marketing wallet, and data outreach and stuff. So yeah, I have a lot of love for buy now pay later companies done properly. That's my
Oh,
caveat. Yeah.
that's important, and that makes me think of the question, like it a platform like Klarna is also a digital platform on which brands can promote, because if
Mm.
you like to the regular John Doe, you ask them what is a digital platform, most likely they will say Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But do not underestimate the platforms that are not necessarily obvious, so to
Yeah.
call. So
Oh, listen, eBay, for example. Again, sorry to kind of plug one of our clients, but eBay have an incredible amount of data. I mean, millions of data points. And again, they're able to kind of like, funnel off certain things. So if brands want to go on there and sell their kind of, product that isn't selling in their store or whatever, the marketing machine behind it that's able to open them up to somebody new that might then go on to buy from them in their store. It's these platforms now are not just one thing. They're also marketing support. They are advertising channels. It's just, I think they're just great. I love this industry. I love fashion and beauty. I think it's come a long way.
You sound very passionate, and it's
Yeah.
really contagious to me as well,
Yeah.
Anthony. So you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can go to the next subject, because Maxim, you mentioned earlier that, or also Anthony, you mentioned influencers. I'm curious, like, as a brand, maybe Maxim, you can elaborate on this. Like, how do you as a brand choose an influencer? Because of course you want someone with a huge following who can target the most people at the same time. But is that always a good thing to do? Can you maybe tell me more?
Of course. It's depending, of course, on your budget you have as brand first. So at start, you try to have like a mix in it. First, you will check, of course, the audience, which kind of influencer are fitting together with your brand. And then you have, of course, micro influencers. These are more the influencers that first they will fit your brand, of course. Then they are like in between 10,000 to 30,000 followers, for example. Most of the times they are not expensive or even happy with just free clothing. So that's like a good way for smaller brands to just give a little bit more like spread in the country. And if you have like more budgets, you will go more to the macro influencers. But of course, if you have like people from 100 to 300,000-400,000, you pay already like maybe 2,000, 3,000 euros for like a post if you don't have like a partnership agreement with them. So it's getting expensive then. And it's really difficult also to measure back how much sales you have, because most of the time they don't want to use a code or anything. In China, it's different. It's more like online selling and you can track everything. But in Europe, it's not like this at the moment. So that's a little bit, personally for me, more difficult to work with them. It can be really good as an awareness campaign and to show the brand to a lot of people. But will you take sales out of it? Depending. I think after time, if you do like the good strategy, macro influence together, then you will of course have a nice mix and focus on one country possibly.
Awesome, thanks for that. And as a marketer myself, in my network of marketeers, I've seen some of my friends working with influencers, and the prices are, I'm not saying getting ridiculous. Of course, it's the time and effort, and also it's their brand as well. They need to promote with these brands, but I'm shocked with the prices. It's like you mentioned 2 or 3,000. I've seen some 5, even 6-digit numbers for not even a person that has like 100,000 followers on Instagram. So it really depends on the quality of your followers as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like something about China. Maybe, I'm not sure if you guys have seen it. Have you seen the lady who shows clothing for like a split second and then shoves the box away? And then another box comes with a piece of clothing, and then she shoves it away. She's getting paid millions per day just to show a piece of clothing for like a split second. You've never?
Wow.
You should look into that. That's like it's like, I think she does like TikTok live or like TikTok videos. It's literally a minute. She shows 60 pieces of clothing, and then per piece she gets paid like thousands and thousands and thousands of yuan, I think, or it has been converted to dollars, like when they make the numbers.
Is that because she's got like an incredible audience or something? Is that
She's
why?
she's huge, and everything she touches literally turns into gold. So so that should also be taken into account. Like, who are you going to be an ambassador of your brand, and of course how much you're willing to spend or are able to spend also needs to be taken into account. But it's crazy how it goes. Sorry.
That kind of brings up another comment, doesn't it? And Maxime, maybe you can speak to this more, but it's also, I suppose you have to really, really think about who you're going to employ to be not necessarily your face of your brand, but one of your influencers, because everything might be fine today, but then when it goes down the line, like I'm sure you've all seen the news about Chiara Ferragni, who, became this mega influencer, and she, deals with Ferrari and, Converse and, a massive, massive star in Italy and around the world and in America, certainly. And, now she's had a unfortunate fall from grace with something that I read in the paper the other day about, she, I can't remember what it was, but some charity thing she was doing or something. And now it's all backfired and stuff. But, all the brands pulled their deals, but of course they're attached now. You know what I mean? So it's a dangerous game, isn't it? I wonder from you, like, what do you think about that?
I think if you have a connection with somebody like this, like an influencer or like even a sport guy that's really like famous, and they have an accident, they do something that's not allowed.
Yeah.
Every brand is always like taking off at that moment, just to give like a good signal to the to the people.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, but of course it's difficult to have like to cover yourself for it. You can make contracts, of course, but more than this, it's difficult to do. What we did in the past, like if you speak back about influencers, at that moment we were not really believing in the authenticity of them. So we were more working on like sports people. So more like people that just doing something, have nice pictures, have a nice following base, and try to have like the products fitting to them. And then always the followers and even on our own channels really liked it, because it's maybe not like a popular influencer, but it's like cool images. It's like a true story that you're showing. But indeed, it's difficult if you have influencers and they do something that the law is not accepting. You need to cover it in a contract. That's the only way you can do it.
It's also depending on the influencer themselves and also what they did, because I was thinking of a specific person, an actor who made my youth like as a pirate. He made it really, really wholesome. And so to play the devil's advocate, like, of course, if a certain influencer does it, as a brand, you want to distance yourself from it. But on the other hand, like Johnny Depp, he was being sued, and all the brands, like even Disney, pulled contact with them. But there was this one brand that stood by him, which was Dior. And then in the end, Johnny Depp was on top of it. Like he won. I don't want to speak into the legalities of everything, but Dior was still by his side. And that made me personally appreciate the brand so much more, because it's like it's a really risky thing to do, but eventually it paid off. And I'm not saying this this is not financial advice or anything, but on the other hand, it really depends on what brand you are and what your values are as a company. So it's always good to be safe, but sometimes if you're willing to take a risk, it might pay off. Of course, entrepreneurship is a whole risk, and sometimes it pays off. So I think really those stories you guys told are really interesting. And I think that's it. Is there anything you guys want to add? Any questions for me, perhaps?
Not from me, I don't think. It's been really interesting and enjoyable, and it was great to see you and great to meet Maxim. So yeah.
If it were up to me, I would have continued this conversation for a couple of more hours, but time is also valuable. So to finish it off, I want to thank you first of all so much for your time, your knowledge, experiences. And Maxim, where are people able to find you?
They can follow me on LinkedIn if they want, and if they have questions, they can always send me a message.
What is like a question you get most often in your inbox? What maybe it sparks some inspiration people haven't thought of when they need to contact you?
It's depending. Sometimes about the history of the brands, or maybe about Bleckmann. That's also a question that I get sometimes. But most of the times, like, how did you start the brand and why? And it's difficult to find good suppliers and that kind of things for fashion.
And I think you will be able to answer those questions perfectly with your experience and knowledge. Thank you so much. Antony, thank you so much as well. Industry fashion, industry beauty, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you can visit our websites. It's theindustry.fashion and theindustry.beauty. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions for me, I'm always open to receiving emails and comments, etc. So yeah, I'm there to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. If you want any questions to be answered, follow us on social media on LinkedIn, Bleckmann Logistics, Bleckmann_logistics on Instagram. shoot your message or send an email at info@bleckmann.com, and we are more than happy to help you guys. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much. Lovely to have you here on this podcast. And until the next episode.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Mohamed.
much. Thank you.